Hi, I'm Irving. Let's talk about Irwin. As you watch the show, a couple of questions can come to mind at times. Questions such as, what level of brainless bean counter loyalty does Inspector Kobick demand from his subordinates? And a related question, just how big a is Kobick? Today we'll answer both questions.
Get out. He's right behind us. Come on. Go ahead. Go.
We'll start with the first question. This guy is so intent on catching the little people for Kobick, he throws a hot smoke bomb into some nice, dense forest underbrush. Fire hazard? Who cares? Kobick won't send little people. Says right here in the manual, use the smoke bomb. Don't say nothing about where. The fugitives will split into 3 groups and scatter. Unfortunately, all this smoke and noise has attracted some attention.
What's that smoke over there?
I don't know.
Now, where are the children?
Well, they were here just a minute ago.
And by the way, your eyes didn't deceive you. Mom is Lee Merriweather. But don't worry, Mom. I'm sure they didn't go too far. Kids never wander off, right? We interrupt this review to bring you this special story time. My youngest daughter was 3. I was the stay-home parent in our family, so I was tasked with watching her. Now, we were in a terrific situation because there was virtually no crime in the little town in Wyoming where we lived, and the town park was right across the street from our house. The street we lived on was nice and quiet, so the kids could go play most any time. The older 2 were in school, so the one I called Gizmo from the day she was born was all I had to worry about. We also had a little terrier mixed dog named Shadow who pretty well raised all 3 of my kids. When Gizmo would take her tricycle, which she called her monkey, we never figured that one out, to the park, Shadow would go with her. While the baby played on the playground, Shadow would take her tennis ball and hustle all the parents to throw it for her. Meanwhile, I could work on my writing business from the house and check on her just by looking out the window. This particular moment when I looked out the window, she wasn't there and neither was the dog. I ran over there and found her monkey abandoned. No sign of the kid or the dog. I hopped on my bike and rode several blocks in every direction. No sign of her. Just as I came home and was going to call the police, a police car pulled up to my house with Gizmo and Shadow in the back seat. That kid knew there was a bank about 2 blocks away that gave free lollipops to children, and she decided she wanted one. So she and the dog both crossed the 2 busiest streets in town and came bopping into the bank to get a sucker. It worked out well for her because the bank people called the police. So she got her sucker, she and the puppy got a free ride home, and I got a panic attack. What a deal. We now return you to your regularly scheduled review.
Daddy, look! Little people. Let's catch them.
And do what with them? You can't keep them as pets. You have no idea what to feed them, and you don't even want to think about what it'd take to clean their litter box.
Into the underbrush.
It won't take long for the media to be on the scene. Rescue crews are trying to sort out the situation, but Kobick's bean counter isn't helping.
It's taking so long. It's been over 2 hours.
If you listen to that newscaster, you won't have to ask.
Okay, I don't know what crawled up Mark's butt, but he has been treating Valerie, both women to be honest, but mainly Valerie, like dirt lately. There were long-range plans to develop a romance between the 2 of them. I guess somebody decided they needed to hate each other first. Or it's just more poor writing. In any case, that right there was the calm before the storm. It's going to get worse.
The police are keeping the spectators back from the shaft opening for the safety of the people themselves, as well as for the safety of the 2 little victims, if indeed they are still alive.
Get back from there.
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
I'm very much impressed, but that old shaft isn't. It could collapse from your weight. Now move on.
Little did anyone realize this guy was the inspiration for Groot. I'm Sergeant Guido SID is the only thing he knows how to say.
Look out!
Get him out of here, Dan. I'll give you the chance.
Unfortunately, his next toss nabs Steve and Dan.
The three of you get out of here. Go back to the camp.
Why should we go back to the ship?
Because there's no sense in risking all of us getting caught. Now get out of here.
Say what you mean, Mark. You're just girls. This is man's work. I thought we'd gotten past all that. Sometimes we can blame the disconnect on the episodes being shown out of order, but not this time. This really is the 23rd episode, so there's no excuse.
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
Get lost.
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
My man's assessing the cave-in down there right now. Yes, Agar, I can hear you. Any sign of them? Make a try, Agar. But be careful. Be very careful.
What's he doing down there? What about our children? I want some answers. I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
I told you to get lost.
Mark and Fitzhugh were following to see where he takes them.
There's been a cave-in across the shaft. My man's afraid to step on it. It might send tons of dirt down on top of your children.
If they put any weight on it, the whole thing will fall and nobody knows how much of it might hit the children. So they're correctly assuming that any amount is too much risk.
Guido's leaving. We gotta keep him in sight.
Barry, what are you doing?
Where are the girls?
They wanted to wait until the rescue man told what he found down there. Then they got an idea to help Steve and Dan.
The idea is pretty easy to figure out. Little people don't weigh enough to cause that blockage to collapse, so they could dig through it and learn the status of the children. And by the way, a quick cutaway already showed us that the kids are alive.
I told you to go back to camp.
Oh, come off it, Mark. We may have found a way to rescue Steve and Dan.
How?
And the children, too.
How can you do that?
Well, come on, we'll find out.
All right, wait a minute. We'll find out now before we leave here.
But, Mark, we don't have time to explain. Come on, we'll tell you about it later on the way.
All right, but it better be good.
Someone please pull that stick out. I don't see Mark coming up with any great plans or any lousy plans or any plans at all, so maybe he should just swallow his testosterone and go with it for once. Valerie and Betty quietly talk to Mrs. Barra, the mom, and suggest that Steve and Dan can do all that. Mom and Dad persuade the lieutenant to call Kobick.
I think I understand, Lieutenant Emar. You want my little people to help you.
It will be very dangerous for them. I thought, as an incentive, the SID might give them their freedom, if they're successful.
Seems like a fair deal. Children's lives are more important than a feather in the inspector's cap, at least one would hope so.
I'm sorry I can't do that, Lieutenant.
Then again, this is Kobick we're talking about, and we are answering the question, how much of all that stuff I said before is he?
But, Inspector, 2 children's lives may be at stake.
I said I couldn't do it.
I believe we're getting our answer.
He says he has no right to barter the freedom of the little people for any reason. He's got his duty, I guess.
His duty. Our children are down there and he thinks about his duty.
Where are you going?
To see the great Inspector Kobick.
I'm gonna pound his head into duty.
There are 5 more in your group. One is a child named Barry. Now, why don't you make it easier on yourselves, and especially on the child, by helping me take them into protective custody now?
Come on. Since when are you interested in the welfare of children?
You're not helping yourself by antagonizing me.
Oh, I'm sorry. A little sensitive about that subject, are we?
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
Get out of my way.
Inspector Kobick?
What's the meaning of this? Who are you?
My name is Barra. Now you're going to listen to me.
No, he won't. He'll give him the same crap he gave the lieutenant. But I'm still remembering the sound of that punch he gave I'm Sergeant Guido SID. It was quite gratifying.
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
No! You've got a lot of gall to talk about duty. Well, my duty is to my kids. Now I say send those little people down that shaft. Let's go!
Just a moment.
You know, Mr. Barra, I could be mistaken, but I think I'm Sergeant Guido SID is saying he wants another one.
I have no authority to make deals with little people. They belong to the state.
Who decided that? And how much say did they have in the decision?
You mean authority in deals? There's 2 kids down there that might be dying. What kind of a man are you?
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
Here's a principle that you will find to be true in every movie or TV conflict you have ever seen or ever will see. Call it Irving's Law number 8. The bad guy always goes for a weapon first.
All right. All right, Inspector. But you better hope my kids are saved. Because if they're not, I'm gonna get you.
Mr. Barra, you've assaulted an officer of the state, and you've threatened my life. Now don't force me to arrest you. Just go.
Now, the way he's holding that thing, he may be under the impression that the bullet comes out the end of the handle. Mr. Barra could take it away from him, dump out all the bullets, and give it back to him before he leaves. At least that's what I'd do. But a lot of people are nicer than I am, especially when it comes to my kids. Lieutenant Emar calls and says they're sinking a parallel shaft, but it'll take a couple of days. They asked me to let Mr. Barra know.
They can't live down there without air.
Lieutenant Emar, I regret there is nothing further that I can do.
I regret there is something you can do. But you won't.
Steve and Dan start begging Kobick to let them help. He says, I can't give you your freedom.
We volunteer. No conditions.
Don't try to ponder the notion of compassion, Kobick. You'll hurt yourself. Dan and Steve are rigged up in rope slings, and the rescue workers are lowering them into the hole. They'll also lower down a couple of spoons for them to dig with. While all the giants are focused on that, Mark has been scouting.
I heard the engineers talking about some old drain and sewer plans. They think most of the abandoned drainage system has collapsed. But I'd sure like to get a look at those plans.
Where are they?
Leaning against that crate over there.
Oh, you can never get to them without them seeing you.
You seriously think they might show a way to help Steve and Dan escape?
Well, that's the idea.
No sooner said than he and Fitzy were there.
Wonder what that was.
I don't know. Let's find out.
They were unrolled long enough for Mark to find out what he needed to know, but now they're trapped against that box. And here comes Inspector Allhart, and I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
Kobick and the sergeant, they're coming this way.
Sergeant, Inspector. Lieutenant Emar thinks that the little people are almost through the caved-in obstruction.
Just then, there's a small cave-in, and Steve isn't answering the radio.
Let's go.
I'm not sure she likes Inspector Kobick. I don't know why. I mean, he used your children's lives as bargaining chips for his own advancement. What's not to like?
There was an arrow on it.
You girls did a good job.
Thanks.
Don't sound surprised. It's not the first time they've saved your bacon.
Let me try. Captain, do you hear me? This is Inspector Kobick.
I order you to be conscious.
What's the situation?
Strictly copacetic, Inspector.
What? What?
Never mind, Kobick. That's way too many syllables for you. Dan and Steve have reached the spot where they can see the children, but they can't tell their condition yet. A moment later, the boy moves a bit, so at least one of them is alive. But the air is really foul. They need oxygen. Quick. The hole they made for themselves in the obstruction is big enough that the rescuers are able to lower an oxygen mask on a hose down to them. Mark and Fitzhugh have found the collapsed entrance to that pipe Mark was talking about. Time to dig. Our kids are Teddy and Lita. Lita is played by Blair Ashley, about whom I could find absolutely nothing. Teddy, on the other hand, is Buddy Foster, a child actor who had some decent roles, including a recurring part on Mayberry RFD, the sequel to The Andy Griffith Show. He quit acting around 1980, and he's best known for writing an especially nasty tell-all book about being a child actor who lived in the shadow of his much more famous sister. He didn't have a whole lot of good things to say about her, and when it came out, she had to kind of do the circuit to explain that pretty much none of it was true. It didn't damage her career any, as shown by the fact that almost nobody remembers actor Buddy Foster, but most everybody knows his sister Jody.
There seems to be an opening here. Look!
And they're in. Down in the hole, the kids are much better after a few hits of O2. Now for the big question, how do we get them out of there?
They're like real life dolls, aren't they, Teddy? Do you think I can keep them? Or maybe just one?
Which one of us would you like to keep, Lita?
You?
Hey, it'd beat hanging out in a cage and listening to Kobick.
You guys all right? Yes, but how'd you get in here? Keep it down. They might hear us.
Mark explains about the drain and says we can dig this big enough to get you two out of here before Kobick knows what happened. But Steve won't leave as long as there's a chance of helping the kids get out. So Mark says if we can dig an opening big enough to get them into this drain, we can get them out too. Fair warning, this is going to get really confusing. Right now, Steve is explaining it to Kobick.
We found this hole in the wall, and it seems to lead into a tunnel.
We want to check it out.
Must be that old lateral drain. They can't get far. It's been collapsed for years.
Kobick tells Captain Burton to go ahead, whereupon they lose radio contact.
Maybe there's no radio reception in the old drain.
Let's take a closer look at those plans.
Guido, I want you to cover a possible escape route for those two little people in the shaft, right about here. Lieutenant Emar, you go with him. Probe. See just how extensive that blockage to the drain really is.
If you're wondering what drain opening they're all talking about, you're not alone. The one Mark and Fitzhugh came through can't be more than about a 4-inch pipe, and we didn't see any other bigger ones.
Look, Teddy, Lita. Now, it's a great big secret that Mark and Mr. Fitzhugh are here to help. So you can't tell anyone. Okay? Now, you promise?
I promise. I promise. But Lita's is no good. She's still too young. But I won't tell Teddy.
All right. We promise.
And besides, Lita isn't all that young.
On my next birthday, I'll be old. I'll be 6.
See? 6 is practically grown up. You don't have to worry about her.
We're in luck. The horizontal shaft is over there behind Teddy.
What?
We don't even have to touch this wall.
Teddy, move over just a little. We want to see behind you. No. Not too much.
There's a hole, but it doesn't go very far back.
I thought they came out the horizontal shaft. As I said, this is going to get really confusing. There's another bigger shaft they were in that comes out right behind the kids. The trouble is, we didn't know about it until just now, so the way this is put together makes it sound like the convenience fairy put it there about 2 minutes ago. This part is poorly written and poorly executed because we don't really have a way to visualize what they're talking about. If we want this to work for the viewer, we need to get a detailed look at those plans with someone showing us all the various twists, turns, and pipes of assorted sizes. As it is right now, we'll watch Mark and Fitzhugh go dig somewhere in another shaft while Teddy and Lita dig from their side and get the whole thing cleared out. Once that's done, there's a makeshift tunnel big enough for the kids to crawl out. Time to let Kobick know.
If we can get these kids headed for safety through this shaft, then we can go out this one.
But Inspector Kobick is up there.
No. Kobick will expect us to come out with the kids.
We can't get up that way.
And climb up the oxygen tube.
That sounds like a workable plan.
What's that? Whoa, baby! Into the tunnel! Quick!
Except if that happens. Now they have to go out the same tunnel the kids went through. And they know Kobick and I'm Sergeant Guido SID will be waiting for them.
Lita.
Darling. It's all right.
They're all right? Let's take them over there and have the doctor look at them.
As we saw, everybody except I'm Sergeant Guido SID is off to see to the children. But that's not listed in the SID Sergeant's Manual, so our boy has no idea what it's all about. He'll stand guard and watch for little people, while looking the wrong way, which kinda wraps up a perfect day for him.
Now!
Sergeant Guido, keep your eyes on that opening.
This guy had to go through several promotions to reach the rank of sergeant, at least we assume so. And Kobick had to tell him what to look at. Now let's see just how ridiculous he is.
There they are! Grab them!
No! Let them go!
I'm sorry, Mrs. Vera. Sergeant?
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
Run! Hurry!
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.
Put it away, Sergeant.
For the second time, he's threatening to shoot an unarmed man who's making no threatening gestures because he's showing gratitude to the people who just saved his children. I don't know what their computer technology is like on this planet, but whatever they stuck in this guy's head is one big glitch. The following week, he was busted down to private and put to work sweeping the floor. But he eventually lost even that job when he got confused and tried to mop Kobick's head. This guy has to have gone through several promotions to reach the rank. This guy had to go through several I can say that.
I'm Sergeant Guido SID.